this is Asia, and you're watching CYC TV. After this video, we all meet on Zoom at 6:45 to talk about things and reconnect, and we'd love to see your face on our screens. Don't forget to give us a like on Facebook and follow us on Instagram, plus subscribe to this channel so you could be connected every single week.
Hi, my name is Keely, and welcome to my quarantine diary. Today, I am going to be making these donut-looking apples. What you will need for these donut-looking apples is chocolate, lemon juice, sprinkles, knife and apple cutter, and an apple, obviously. The first step is to cut the apple. And make sure you don't cut yourself, because if you want to cut yourself, then you need help. Go get help. The second step is to pour lemon juice in a small bowl and spread it all over the apple. This will prevent browning. Make sure you get it all over the apple in the whole tube. The third step is to melt the chocolate and make sure it's melted. And then spread it on the apple. Like really spread it on the apple. And then you put sprinkles on it, or whatever you want to decorate it with. It can be sprinkles, I don't know, syrup. Weird. Anyway, you're done now. Yeah, goodbye.
Hi guys, I'm just watering my plants, something to keep me busy during quarantine. What are you guys up to? Are you doing anything cool, super cool, lame, creative? Anyways, we'd love to see it. So submit your video to championyouth.tv@gmail.com and you'd be featured on the show next week. Now welcome Pastor B as he brings us the message.
Welcome back, CYC, to Stranger Times. Again, I don't know how I can stress this to you guys in this time of quarantine and being stuck at home, and don't allow opportunities for you to better yourself, for you to try new things, for you to experiment and, writing or creating or baking. We had our Zoom Connect this last week, and we were asking, what would you do if you could do anything? What would you like to do? What have you always wanted to do? And a lot of them was like, I want to try baking, I want to try this, I want to try skateboarding. I mean, this is the time to try something new. You may find your purpose in this season. I've never done a video series we've never done this before, huh, Megan?
Yeah.
That's right, never done this before. You know what, we're having way too much fun here, and I'm just gonna tell you, today's series, I wanted to show you something that I've recently started doing when all this COVID stuff started getting all crazy and you couldn't find toilet paper and you couldn't find just about anything. People were just buying everything off the shelves, and I just got to this thing where I was like, I love coffee. If you can't tell, I love coffee. I always wanted to roast my own coffee beans. And so I just started doing it. And just, there's things on YouTube. Gotta love YouTube. It's out there. And so I started roasting coffee, and I guess I got pretty good at it, because now everybody wants me to roast coffee for them. And I don't do it for free. I ain't like that. trying to make a little business for myself, little side hustle. Can I say that? Side hustle? Is that okay? So in any case, I was roasting these coffee beans, and I'm getting into this whole roasting, starting our own little family business, Sweet House Roasters. It's pretty cool, and whatever. It'll be all over the shelves pretty soon. And I thought, what a great opportunity to teach you guys, show you guys stuff. There's things that I know you don't know, nor do you probably care to learn about coffee. But since you're here, I might as well share it with you, right? So the first thing is you've got to pick your beans, right? Coffee beans don't come like these little brown things you see in the bag. They actually come as these really small little green bean. They're just small green beans, and you got to pick your beans. And here's the thing about coffee beans. They're grown all over the world in different regions, in different climates. There's different ways of processing them. They do a thing called wet washing or drying, and it's this whole long complex process. I'm not going to go into it. You have to pick your beans, and I'm going to be roasting a Nicaraguan Caturra blend of coffee today. Obviously, it's grown in Nicaragua, and the breed or the plant species it came from is the Caturra. Caturra? I can say that. Caturra. Or it's Caturra. I'm not sure. It's a really good coffee. So you pick out your beans, and here's the thing. We're like those beans, right? We all come from different areas. We all have different families and upbringings and cultures that maybe you've been brought up in. And that's just it. Each one of us goes through different processes as we're growing up. Some of us have a single parent home. Some of us have broken families, and some of us have whole families. And that's just it. Each and every one of us is different, and we all have different qualities. But God picks you and me. He picks us to be a part of His plan. He picks us to be a part of His family. In John 15:16, Jesus says this, "You didn't choose me, I chose you. I appointed you to go out and produce lasting fruit," or in this case, amazing coffee, "so that the Father will give you whatever you ask for in my name." See, God chose you. Jesus, He picked me, He picked you to be something amazing. So once you pick your coffee bean, just chuck them in the roaster. I could go through the processes of weighing and whatnot. Yeah, you want to know how much you're putting in. You don't just dump it in like crazy but I usually roast in about half pound or full pound increments. I'm going to do about a half pound today. And depending on how long you roast the bean and at what heat you roast it at will determine the flavor of the coffee. If you don't roast it long enough, it's going to be bitter, it's going to be sour. If you roast it too long, it's going to be burnt. It's going to taste burnt, and no one likes burnt coffee. And no one likes bitter coffee for that matter either. So the whole process and the point of that roasting is to just get it to the right color, the right temperature. And see, the whole roasting process, it's life, right? We all are going to have good times. We're going to have bad times. And all of those times bring out the flavors in you. If you try and grow up too fast, if you choose to not learn from life and you kind of get out of the growing process, the maturing process, you're going to be bitter. You're not going to be mature. And we have a lot of that in our world right now. A lot of adults who are still teenagers. I choose to be this way, just so we're clear. Okay. However, some of us can stay trapped in the same place and not learn and not grow. And what ends up happening is you end up getting burnt. And it happens in life, it happens in the church. It's important that you grow and you understand and learn. Because if you just come to church and all you're doing is coming to church, but you're not serving, you're not learning, you're not growing, you're either going to be bitter or you're going to get burnt. And I've seen it in both cases. So what's the key? It's just important to learn balance. It's important to learn from our mistakes, and it's important to also learn from our victories, right? Romans 5:3-5 says it like this, we can rejoice too when we run into problems and trials, right? For we know that they help us develop endurance, and endurance develops strength of character, and character strengthens our confident hope of salvation. And this hope will not lead to disappointment, for we know how dearly God loves us because He's given us the Holy Spirit to fill our hearts with His love. And so in this roasting process, as it's roasting, and basically for me, because I'm not a professional roaster by any means, I'm learning so much right here. Once they've reached pretty much the desired color, I look for a certain color, and it's this between this kind of milk chocolate and not dark chocolate, but this rich brown color. You take the beans off the heat and transfer them to a pan to cool, and you want to let them cool out, because here's the thing is these coffee beans are, if you were just to grab one in your hand, you would get a 2nd degree burn, because they're about 350 degrees each. And once you take them off the heat, they're still going to continue to roast. So you want to lay them out, you want to spread them out so they can cool off. During the roasting process, there's this interesting thing that happens. There's an outer casing that you don't really know is on the bean, but it starts to grow, and as the bean roasts and it kind of plumps a little bit, this outer casing, known as the chaff, will start to flake off and fall off. This outer coating, this chaff, it's useless. You can't eat it. You can't drink it. It's a nuisance. It gets in everything. It messes up your roaster if you don't clean it out. And you got to spend a lot of time cleaning out your roaster, because it can really make things difficult and therefore affect the roasting process. So this chaff, it's pretty much garbage. How do you get rid of the chaff? Well, you could pick at it, which would take a long time and take forever, or you can let the wind carry it away. I like to think of this chaff as kind of like the sin in our lives. Our older selves, the kind of like that person that we were before we knew Jesus, before we gave our lives to Him, before we got saved. And when you start to enter in this relationship and in this walk with God, and you start to grow and mature, this chaff, this old self kind of starts to fall away, and the things that you used to be into, you're not really into anymore. And you start to mature and grow. And here's the thing, if you don't allow that chaff to fall off and to get blown away, allow the Holy Spirit to come through and kind of blow that chaff away, it's going to mess up everything, because it's going to be stuck to you. And that chaff likes to stick to everything. And so it's important to get rid of it. You can't use the chaff at all. The only thing it's good for is to be thrown away, burnt, or to be kind of put into like a compost heap, which is basically garbage. You don't put the garbage on you. You put it on plants, you chuck it out. You see what I'm saying? So get rid of the chaff in your life. King David said in Psalm 35:5, he says, "Blow them away like chaff in the wind, a wind sent by the angel of the Lord." And it's so important to recognize the chaff in your life and to go to God and ask God just to blow it away, get it out of your life, blow it as far away. And Jeremiah 13:24 says, "I will scatter you like chaff that is blown away by the desert winds." And he was talking about, just in Jeremiah's case, talking about this bad people doing bad things and not really following and loving God. And the last thing we want is God to blow us away like chaff. The point is recognizing that God has the ability to remove the chaff from our lives, and it's going to help us grow. It's going to help you be a better person, and it's going to stop bogging you down. So once the chaff has been removed, and there's a little process I'm going to show you with basically it's kind of nifty in a weird way. You just kind of go outside and you dump the beans in between two pans, and then the wind comes along and blows the chaff away, which isn't necessarily great on my back patio, but I don't care. I'm a renter. In any case, once the chaff is blown away and it's been removed, you're ready to grind and brew a cup. So the whole concept of being ground and brewed into a cup of coffee and all that, I'm not saying God's going to grind you up and brew you into a cup of coffee at all. The point is this, is once these beans are where they're at, they're ready to be used for their purpose. Their purpose is to create pure heaven for me and for you to drink and enjoy. And the point is this, when you are fully mature and you are serving, you know what your purpose is, what God's created you to do, and you start doing that, you start to become a pleasing aroma to God, just like this coffee is a pleasing aroma to me. 2 Corinthians 2:15 says, "Our lives are a Christ-like fragrance rising up to God. But this fragrance is perceived differently by those who are being saved and by those who are perishing." And what that means is people who like coffee are Christians, and those who don't like coffee are not. There are those who like coffee, which is from heaven, and then there are those who like decaf, which is what I call brown sadness water. It's counterfeit. It's not real coffee. It's fake coffee. Ephesians 5:1-2 says it like this: imitate God, therefore, in everything you do, because you are his dear children. Live a life filled with love, following the example of Christ. He loved us and offered himself as a sacrifice for us, a pleasing aroma to God. See, what happens is when you start to live a life of love, following Christ, imitating Jesus, it means putting others before yourself. It means taking care of those who are less fortunate. It means being a champion, standing up and fighting for those who can't fight for themselves. You become a pleasing aroma to God, just like this coffee is a pleasing aroma to me and to so many others who are being saved. A couple little things I want to throw at you, some tips and tricks when you're learning about coffee. First thing is this: the greener the bean, the higher the caffeine. And what that means is this: sometimes you'll go to a store and you'll look at coffee, it'll say blonde roast, medium roast, dark roast. Now, when I was growing up, I always thought dark roast was extra caffeine, and your parents probably do too, but that's not true. That little green coffee bean, chock full of caffeine. You don't want to drink it because it'll taste nasty. So you got to roast it. And so it has these stages of roast, and there's a blonde roast, which has been roasted, and it goes past this thing called the first crack. Once you go past the first crack, that's a blonde roast. I am not daring enough to go into a blonde roast, but the blonde roast has the most caffeine. A medium roast is right there in the middle, and the dark roast has the least amount of caffeine. Did you know that? I bet you didn't, but now you do. And knowing's half the battle.
Now I know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe! I hope you enjoyed the video today. Make sure you guys join up on the Zoom Connect and talk about, coffee and what you learned about coffee, and hopefully you can teach your parents some amazing things. If you would do me a great favor, it'd be just amazing if you would click on the like and subscribe buttons at the bottom and click on the little bell so you're notified whenever we're dropping some videos. We're getting ready to drop a bunch of new videos, and if you're sending us your videos as well about what you're doing during these strange times and the quarantines of COVIDness and the COVID quarantineness, we want those too. We're going to put all those links at the bottom, the emails at the bottom. Be sure to follow us on Instagram as well and on Facebook, and we will see you next week on Stranger Times. G.I. Joe!
I have no idea what I'm doing. Wait a minute, hold on. This is not very well calculated, I believe. I think I can fix it anyway. I can't. This is either gonna get me fired from maintenance or promoted.